Wel- Welcome to Jack's Train of Thought, everybody, where I, Jack, your protagonist, talk about whatever comes to his mind, whenever it comes to his mind, about literally anything. This is going to be a series where I talk about anything related to media, video games, from to biting social commentary. It's just going to be whatever. So just expect something different every time. And today we are going to be talking about Tomb Raider. Now, I started getting into Tomb Raider very recently, but I really do have an appreciation for the game series at this point. Not only just because I got a crush on Lara Croft, but it's also the closest thing I'll ever get to Indiana Jones fighting a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is that's always a thumbs up in my book. I started playing these games recently just to see what about them was so iconic, and in doing so, I think I realized that Lara Croft is maybe the best video game waifu of all time. Right up there with Samus Aran and that one chick from Oblivion. But not only did I raise my standards for any girl that I considered dating to astronomical, but I also saw that, holy crap, there are 17 of these games? There are very few game franchises that has that many games, and like most of them are good. I'd say that in this particular franchise, like 75% of those games are pretty good. This isn't like Assassin's Creed where it stopped being good after the first 3 games, but then they still continue to pound every new release into your skull like a Spartan soldier trying to calm the cries of a baby. I want to discuss the series as a whole and what makes the game so enjoyable, and also the different dynamics between each game, or rather era, because it's been through a few phases, if you will. And I'll only be sticking to games in the main series because those are the only ones I really care about. It all started with the release of Tomb Raider in 1996 for the Sega Saturn and PlayStation. The idea was revolutionary at the time and was by many critics revered as one of the best games of all time. Now, today's standards make this game look like a Play-Doh creation that you made, realized would look better if you just went ahead and put it in your mouth, chewed it up, and allowed it to re-enter this plane of reality via the same chute. But back then, this was pretty high-quality action.
I don't know where his little jackrabbit frog legs are running him to. You'll have to ask Miss Natalie.
Thank you. I will.
Holy crap, what the heck? Oh, that was the most unnecessarily beautiful thing I've ever seen. Tomb Raider 2, starring Lara Croft, came out in 1997. Tomb Raider 2 did what any good sequel did and added on to the original without taking away what made the first one a success. This game is considered by many to be the best in the franchise to this day, which is an impressive feat. The fact that you get to fight a dragon in the Croft Mansion probably helped with that as well. When was the last time you saw Nathan Drake say, "Okay, Spyro, you and me, baby, let's do this the old-fashioned way. Cypher!" Yeah, Uncharted. You can come talk to me when you're a 100% true adventurer. Or whenever you come out on the PC, because I don't own a PlayStation. 1998, Tomb Raider 3, Adventures of Lara Croft. You know, it kind of, at this point, it just kind of feels like they're trying to remind you who the protagonist of the games really is. It's kind of like when you're praying and you just say God or Jesus every, 5 words or so just to reiterate that you know who you're praying to. That's not a bad thing, I just thought I would point it out. Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation came out in 1999. This is the Land Before Time effect, where they just decide to stop putting numbers on them because counting is exhausting and nobody enjoys it. Another well-received title, adding the very essential mechanic of rope climbing, but this one interested me the most because Lara freaking dies at the end. Because this game took 4 years to make, the developers were so sick of seeing the Lara Croft model in front of them day after day for that long that, I kid you not, they hatched a plan together to kill the character that they were working on. And the CEO legit didn't even know about this, and he kind of chewed them out in his office after they found out. He didn't find out until it was way too late, which is hilarious. Tomb Raider Chronicles came out in 2000, and it does pick up from the last game, but takes a different turn where you play as Lara on some of her past adventures as characters that she was close to reminisce about them. It's different than what we're used to and actually works pretty well. And of course, the ending reveals that she's not really dead because we never would have guessed that ourselves. And finally, a game came along that went and killed the series. Oh boy, Angel of Darkness was really bad. Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness came out in 2003, and most people couldn't get 20 minutes into the game before just being like, yeah, no, I could spend this 7 hours feeding the homeless or spending time with my family or doing literally anything else. It wasn't completely bad. It experimented with some things that later became commonplace in the series. But with the execution done in a poor and super glitchy fashion, this would put an arrow into the skull of the first era. Now, these games were revolutionary at the time and set the standard for adventure games in the future, just forever. Every game has followed that kind of same formula. If you look at Uncharted, they all followed the path that Tomb Raider paved. But I admittedly was pretty young when these games came out, and so I didn't play the early ones like 1, 2, 3, or Last Revelation. I didn't really play any of those until recently when I was able to get them on Steam. I didn't really come around to Tomb Raider until the second phase of their releases. This was like early 2000s when I started to actually hear about these games and figured out they exist. Tomb Raider Legend, released in 2006. Legend was a reboot on the 10th anniversary of the series, and was the first game to be developed by Crystal Dynamics and not Core Design. It was a return to form, which the series desperately needed after the last game. The mic does it. If I talk like this and if I talk like this, is it different? Yeah, a little bit. So I just try to talk my mouse close to it when I'm doing just the mic. Mouse cloth? Think it's slipping past me, you idiot, you can't freaking speak, you don't know how to use words, you just go ahead and not be here, you just go ahead and let someone else make your videos for you, you just imbecile, you absolute degenerate. Tomb Raider Anniversary, released in 2007, followed suit the next year by being essentially a remake of the first game. Same story, same locations, but with more fluid controls and the graphics updated. Tomb Raider Underworld, released in 2008, was the finale of this trilogy and delivered the payoff that the last two games had been setting up for. Now, I'm not going to get into the storyline of these last few games just because I don't really have time for that, but they've got a pretty solid storyline overall, and the gameplay is enjoyable. Lara is a more enjoyable character in this one's. I would probably qualify this as the essential Tomb Raider era, this right here. If you haven't played these games yet, and you don't really want to play as Potato Croft of the first era, I would recommend these ones to you. They blend combat and puzzles very well, and they even introduce things that were important to the series later on, such as QuickTime events. You know, if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not. The franchise slowed at this point, and although they released Temple of Osiris in 2010, I wouldn't really count it as a main game, so we're just gonna skip over that one right there because it's a kind of a side game with more kind of multiplayer aspects. It's its own thing.
Isn't it Osiris?
Osiris? Is it Osiris?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll pronounce it Osiris. I'll do it again. Pronounce it Osiris. More like Osiris.
We can look it up and then keep whichever one.
Let's see.
Pronunciation.
Okay, it is Osiris. We'll do that again. I was like Osiris. The franchise slowed down at this point, and although they released Temple of Osiris in 2010, I wouldn't really count it as a main installment, so we're just going to kind of breeze over that one and go right into the third era. In 2013... Just in 2013, things happened, you know? It was a good year.
Wow.
I'm sorry. That was intentional, and I feel like a jerk for doing it. Here we go. In 2013, the reboot Tomb Raider was released. This time, the game focused on an origin story for Lara Croft. This game was a different take on the formula. Instead of having Lara as an experienced treasure hunter, she was a survivor of a terrible boat crash. While the game still delivers on the tomb raiding aspects and combat, this whole title had a different dynamic. As opposed to being an experienced archaeologist on the hunt for a legendary artifact, you are a castaway fighting for her life on an island with with a mythological history. The sequel to this, Rise of the Tomb Raider, was released in 2015, and it didn't let up on any of the gritty aspects. Lara suffers from PTSD and is coping by trying to solve a mystery that her late father started. Although admittedly, I haven't played this one yet, like full through. I've started it. I haven't played the whole game yet. And what I've had seen so far, I've really enjoyed, but I can't give a full opinion on it yet since I'm very early on into the game, so sorry. As of now, the third entry in this list, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, hasn't released yet, but it is set to later this year. So I don't know much about it, but apparently Lara sets off a Mayan apocalypse, so seems pretty cool. The third era is a modern take on a classic character and makes her much more relatable and human. Lara Croft is on top of her game. She's stressed, scared, and her character is built through hardships she's forced to endure. You can argue whether or not you like the old playstyle of flashy combat and total bossness better than the recent realism and survivalist gameplay, but you can't deny that Lara is a more fleshed out character in the reboot trilogy. Overall, the series has had its ups and downs like any franchise has, but it's been iconic for a reason. It set standards for adventure games that are still followed to a T to this day. Personally, I think the 2013 reboot is my favorite, but I also really am a sucker for the less GPU-heavy games of the early 2000s. The 2013 reboot is proof that changing with the times can improve a game's quality, whereas Angel of Darkness shows that changing a formula too quickly will cause it to explode and destroy your laboratory and leave you in tears. I recommend these games to anyone who's a fan of Indiana Jones but wants to play a hotter character than Harrison Ford. If you want a high-action, puzzle-solving platformer with spy thriller elements, I'd recommend the Second Era trilogy, but if you prefer a more realistic, darker tone and character development, I'd recommend the 2013 reboot series. That's all I really have to say about Tomb Raider at the moment. I'm looking forward to the next installment. Maybe I'll do a video talking about the movies that came out, whether or not they're good at all, which one's my favorite, that kind of jazz. But if I did that, it means I'd have to watch Cradle of Life. Anyway, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.